A massive railroad embargo has just started. This has started with Union Pacific Railway. They have implemented this embargo, and they are telling producers and shippers to take off hundreds and hundreds of their carts individually. All right, individual shippers are being told to take off hundreds of their carts, and they're being told that shipping limits and shipping embargoes are being put in place. All right, so this is very serious. This is another threat to our railway. This is just like the strikes we saw last month. Earlier this month, we were seeing these strikes. Thankfully, they were averted. All right, but we are still seeing repercussions and reactions to it. And it's almost, is this intentional? Is this on purpose? Because the rate at which Union Pacific is shutting down and putting these embargoes in place is extreme. It's almost 10x compared to what they normally do, right? And this has been happening this year, and it just almost makes you wonder if they are trying to shut down the railways on purpose. All right, so let's get into this big news here, because I haven't seen anyone reporting on this, and this is actually a big threat. And now producers and shippers are even coming out and complaining about this as well too. They're saying this is a problem. This is going to make prices skyrocket, and they're also saying it's going to make prices skyrocket for you, the consumer. All right, so let's get into this. So Union Pacific Railroad shipping limits generate complaints. This is out of ABC News. This was reported December 14th. And we can see here that federal regulators and shippers are questioning Union Pacific's decision to temporarily limit some businesses' shipments as part of its effort to clear up congestion across the railroad. The head of the U.S. Surface Transportation Board, Martin Oberman, said Wednesday he's concerned about Union Pacific's increasing use of the embargoes because they disrupt operations of the businesses that rely on the railroad, and they haven't seemed to help its performance significantly. So the whole excuse here is that they are shutting down the railroads to help them move more efficiently. All right, they're saying we have to take all these carts off, all these cars off. We have to implement all these embargoes and limits, and it's going to help clear up congestion. But even the head of the railway is saying that he hasn't seen that evidence. All right, he hasn't seen that, and it seems intentional. Why are they doing this? All right, the head of the U.S. Surface Transportation Board said that it's not even helping. He hasn't seen performance significantly increase. All right, Union Pacific has ordered companies to remove some of their rail cars from the network more than 1,000 times this year, up from 140 times in 2018, according to the Transportation Board. That's what I mean. It's almost a 10xing of the amount of times they've been asking companies to take their cars off. All right, so over 1,000 times this year they've said, oh, you got to take off. One company we'll get to in a second had to take off over 100 cars, and this is a agricultural company, right? This affects the food supply. This affects everyone. They're saying that this is affecting their business and their production right now. So an embargo can force a business to consider cutting production or resorting to more expensive shipping options like trucking, if that's even an option. And they can make it harder for other businesses to get key products such as shipments of chlorine used to treat water and grain for feeding animals. So this is like the railroads are a lifeblood for the supply chain, right? They get these critical things. A lot of things can only be transported by railroad. A lot of toxic chemicals, a lot of very heavy things, heavy loads, a lot of wide loads cannot be transported on normal roads. They're too heavy. They will damage the road. They don't fit, and they need to be transported by rail, or they're toxic materials or just very volatile materials that can only be transported by rail as well, because it's dangerous to transport them other ways, and it's going to affect. And a lot of these materials are the base of other industries, all right? Just like they said, chlorine is used to treat water for all the treatment plants, all right? Everything else, chlorines and everything. Just one example here how it's going to affect all these other industries as well. If this embargo continues. Quote, the customer is bearing the brunt of the pain. You guys are still making money, Surface Transportation Board member Robert Primus said, addressing Union Pacific executives during 2 days of board hearings this week. All right, so just like I said, they're even saying the consumers are going to bear the brunt of this, right? Because they're all these companies already have their cars lined up ready to go. They're just waiting for Union Pacific to move them, and they have to, reverse logistics, all their stuff, bring everything back, take everything off. It's going to cost them a ton of money. There's going to be spoilage, there's going to be delays. It's just like the shipping cargo out in the ocean. When it gets backed up, it's just a chain reaction, and then there's 50, there's dozens of ships off the coast, and it takes a long time to process all those ships. It causes a lot of delays, and that's what we're seeing here. And their only solution is to just essentially take the cars off, right? For much of this year, Union Pacific and the other major freight railroads have struggled to deliver products on time and handled all the shipment companies want to move because they were short on crews coming out of the what. The railroads have been improving throughout the year as they hired more workers, but regulators say they're still lagging behind where they should be. Union Pacific is using significantly more embargoes than any other railroad. Just like I said, over 1,000 this year. That's a ton. How many is that a month? You know what I mean? It's just like they're always happening, apparently. And it was 140 in 2018, over 1,000 this year. Is this on purpose? These railroad strikes, I really don't trust any of it. I feel like there's, higher up, there's external powers that want to shut down America's railroad system, right? It's definitely a thing. They want to shut down the supply chain. The railroads are critical to this. At the hearings, Union Pacific executives defended their practice, arguing that their embargoes are needed to help get the railroad running better. CEO Lance Fritz said the embargoes are targeted and temporary measures that shouldn't place an undue burden on individual businesses. Quote, we only use embargoes when necessary, and when no longer necessary, we end them. Right, that's their excuse. They're saying it helps. They're saying it helps to implement these embargoes, but all the businesses are saying it doesn't help. Right? But several shippers and trade groups testified that the embargoes are hurting their businesses. Cargill executive Brock Leuchtenschlager said Union Pacific's actions make it harder to plan. Last month, the railroad told Cargill it needed to pull 130 rail cars it owns from the network within a week or face shipment limits at 5 of its plants. Right? So 130 rail cars. Cargill is a massive agricultural producer. They process meats. They produce a ton of chemicals. They have a ton of meat processing plants, and they're a giant agricultural producer, and they are being told to take off over 100 rail cars, 130 rail cars, or face shipment limits at 5 of their plants. All right, this I don't understand. I thought they fixed the railroads. I thought they had a plan here. Apparently not. And this is because they used to have 5,000-10,000 more people working on their system than they do. They used to have 5,000-10,000 more people a few years ago than they do now, right? There's also a severe shortage of people working on the railroads right now. So it says the agribusiness giant complied because it worried that an embargo could force it to shut down a plant. This is serious, guys, and this is not being reported. And these are just arbitrary rules that Union Pacific, any kind of railroad, can just put on at any moment, and they're saying Union Pacific is one of the worst offenders here. Greg Twist with Grain Processor Ag Processing Inc. compared the situation to going shopping at a grocery store and finding that the store refuses to hire more than one clerk, and then the store's manager tells him he must come back at a certain time of day if he wants service. That's what he's comparing it to. And unlike with groceries, his company generally can't shop around to ship its goods because Union Pacific is the only railroad that serves several parts of its plants. Exactly, these rail lines are one way in, one way out. A lot of places, they don't even have two lines in a lot of places, and they are directly attached to Union Pacific. Their plants are, right? They can't just build a new rail line to some other company that will serve them that's attached to their plant. It just doesn't exist, doesn't happen. And these rail lines, they have monopolies on certain parts of the country. Certain parts of the country, there's only Union Pacific or different operators, in different regions. Twist said ag processing should have, quote, the freedom to decide how we operate our facilities without having the railroad dictate how much they can produce with its shipping limits. All right. So these ag producers are coming out because they are one of the main ones that use the railroads, and it affects your food supply. Right. So the railroad threat is not over. Get prepared now. Learn to grow a garden. Learn to grow a winter garden. I'm going to start getting more homesteading content on here. I know I haven't. I know I used to have a lot more on here, but I'm going to start showing more homesteading stuff, more videos, more educational stuff, growing your food, and getting prepared, guys, because it's critical. We can't just depend on external forces to just bring us food, like, Instacart and Uber eats us right to our mouth. All right, we can't just depend on this anymore. We need to be self-reliable and self-dependent. All right, so get prepared now, guys. Thank you for watching. Hit that thumbs up, hit that sub, and stay prepared and stay blessed. Thank you, guys.